Macho John Madden, they call me Juanito in Mexico, and I'm outside of the 67 Biltmore Cafe in Asheville, North Carolina on Biltmore Avenue. This used to be Laurie's Yum Cafe, and back, when would it have been, in the 2000, around 1990, this whole downtown was bombed out. It was nothing, because the city had refused to default on their debts and everything went under. It was all boarded up. But Laurie Masterton was the first one. She was the anchor of the downtown. She put in her cafe there, and what a woman she was. And I'm going to tell a story of something that happened in that restaurant about 8 or 9 years ago. Over there is the French Broad Food Co-op, and on the top floor there is a movement space, and I used to go to a dance class there, Asheville Movement Collective Ecstatic Dance, with Susan Campbell, who's still leading dances. And we would come over here for brunch afterwards, and it was a very sweet time. We'd sit at a long table, and it was always just warm and sweet. Susan's incredibly sweet. But on the day in question, I moved into my prophet voice, my badass voice, for one of the first times. Can we see through here? It's not really a good shot there. But, well, still what? We're all sitting at the table, and this guy who had been at the dance and was here was holding forth about satsangs with Alea. Now, Alea Dickinson is an important friend of mine, and I'll put a link to where I first met her teacher and my teacher, Carlos Lopez, one of Alea's many teachers, but most of them are loosely in the lineage of Ramana Maharshi. And I had gone to satsangs with Alea for a while, and they just didn't quite work for me, and I stopped going. This was a guy who just adored Alea. She was his only teacher, I think, pretty much. And he just worshipped the ground she walked on, which makes sense because she's cool. But when I said, just innocently, well, I know Alea because we studied under the same guy, Carlos Lopez. And that guy who had never heard jack about Carlos Lopez took offense at this. He said, no, that's not true. She didn't study under any dude named Carlos Lopez. So usually I let stuff like that pass. Back in Chicago years before, I was with a girlfriend, Maureen, at a party in Oak Park, and this guy was holding forth about meditation. And when Maureen and I walked on, she says, am I right, or do you know about 100 times more about meditation than that asshole? I said, yes, you're right. But it was his 15 minutes of fame, and why am I going to horn in on that? No, let him work. So that's how I usually would handle things like that. But in this case, back in here, let's go take a peek. Back in here, I'm not going to go in. But back in the restaurant, back there, let's see if somebody opens this door and knocks me down. I don't know if you can see that there. No, we're seeing reflection mostly. You can see it down there, I don't know. Long table. So this guy says, no, there was no Carlos Lopez. She's never studied under that guy. And I looked at him and I said, so you know everything that's in Alea's mind. She can't possibly have had any experience that you're not aware of. I don't think I said asshole, but that was implied. And Susan started to squirm because this was not friendly talk. But I was calling him out. I was calling, hey, Jack, you think you're such a big shot. You are not. You are not as big a big shot as you think you are. And, you know, just recently on Facebook, someone who was holding forth about being master of the universe, which the whole new age, since the Secret movie, they like to think they're master of the universe, and they're going to mastermind everything. And I said, you're much more powerful than you realize, and much more powerful than your other friends realize. But you're not that powerful. No, there's all these other people who have reality, and you got to interface with them. And in some ways, you know, you're not much at all because it's the universe that's doing it. It's not you that's doing it, you silly person. And she went crazy on me on Facebook. And that was a tragic.
Yeah,
and very traumatic for me. No, I just noticed that she had gone bonkers, and that guy went bonkers that day. So sometimes when someone's being an asshole, you just let it go. Why bother? And other times when someone's being an asshole, something in you says, practice calling people out, because sometimes you have to do that. It might be good for them. It might shake them up. So I practice. And right here, Laurie's Yum Cafe, that guy, I don't know if he's recovered. I don't know if he's received total enlightenment yet, like me. Okay, that's enough. I keep looking for who I know. Today on this street, I actually ran into, I've been gone for 5 years, but today I've run into two important people, Tabby Davis and Doug DiCarlo and his wife Rodby. I ran into them just down the street. And they know how important I am. Yeah, right. Okay, bye.